Hey, I'm Chef Rich, a classically trained chef, author, and award-winning culinary educator. With over 2 decades of experience, I've discovered that food is more than just food. It's our greatest medicine. But here's the truth. There is no quick fixes, magic pills, superfoods, or diets that work. Welcome to a different kind of cooking show. Our mission? To inspire, educate, and prove that getting healthy doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. I'll share tips on saving you money at the grocery store, saving you time in the kitchen, and creating meals that everyone will eat. I'll expose the lies about food, reduce the stress about what's for dinner, and remove the struggle of getting healthy. If you give me a chance, I promise, we'll always make it fun, easy, and delicious. Now let's get cooking. Hey, I'm Chef Rich, and welcome to One Plate Kitchen, where we save you money at the grocery store, we save you time in the kitchen, and we make delicious meals that are easy, fun, and healthy. Now today we're going to be making a red curry and coconut pumpkin soup. Now I love soups because they allow you to be creative and use all kinds of leftovers. Now since we know what we're making, let's take a look at the stars of the show, our ingredients. So we have, of course, our amazing herb salt, which we all love. We have our red curry paste. Now this is an optional ingredient. It's a little spicy, so if you don't like spicy and if you just want to omit it, you definitely can do it. Remember, all these recipes that we do, I want you to make it your own. So if you find an ingredient in it that either you don't like, or maybe it's a little too spicy, don't use it. You can omit it. All right, we have some sour cream that we're going to use. And again, this sour cream just makes it, it's going to be used as a garnish, so it just gives it a little bit of creaminess. We have our ginger, ground ginger. We have garlic. Now we have some pumpkin puree. Now this pumpkin puree, remember, it's not the same like pumpkin pie. All right, I'm going to use both. I'm going to use a whole pumpkin. I'm going to show you how to do that. But we're also going to use a pumpkin puree. Now we're also going to use an ingredient that's rarely used, which hurts my heart because they are so delicious when they're roasted. We have some red beets. All right, now I know you're like, oh my goodness, red beets and this, I promise you, it's going to look amazing, but it's also going to give it a really rich and sweet flavor. We have some parsley. We have lime that we're going to mix with our sour cream. We have an onion, some celery, and then we have chicken stock. And the last thing that's hiding all the way there in the back is our coconut cream. Now, since you know all of our ingredients, let's get cooking. Now, the first thing we're going to do is get our onions cut up. So I'm going to get my onion here, and we're just going to peel our onion. I'm just going to cut the top, cut the bottom off. We're going to get rid of this. Now, the good thing about this soup today is it doesn't matter how you cut anything, because once we get it in there, everything is going to be pureed. It's going to be a really creamy type soup. So we're going to make our slice down. Again, remember, we just want to peel these layers off. These layers are really papery and we don't like them. All right, they don't cook well. They don't eat well. All right, so we get rid of that. I'm going to clean up my area. I'm going to get the other one done. And you'll see no crying either because we're going to work with these onions so fast. All right, we're going to peel this back a little bit. You got some stuff there we want to get rid of. All right. So now when we cut our onion, remember, we're just going to go down, down. So we're just going to make dice out of this. So we'll just cut it down nice and easy. And then going in, we'll turn our whole onion in the opposite direction. And all you're going to do is just slice. Just slice down just like that. All right, so that's one done. I'm going to get my other one and we'll do the same thing. So we just make our slices down. So just take your time with this. You don't have to rush it all. We're going to give it a turn. And then we're going to make our slice. And we make our nice dice right there. Whatever size you have, that's perfect. Remember, it's all going to be pureed. Now I want to get my pan on and get it nice and hot. Now it's starting to get warm already. We already had it pretty warm before. Now how much oil am I going to put in here? Now I know you know the answer to this, but we're going to say only 1 tablespoon. So I'm going to get my 1 tablespoon of oil in there. What type of oil? You can use olive oil, you can use canola oil. I'd rather you use olive oil for this one. All right. Now that's nice. I'm going to get my onions in there now. I'm gonna let these go for a little bit. Now the key with this soup, or any kind of soup that you're putting onions in, one of the best things you can do is let your onions cook longer and longer and longer. The longer they cook, the sweeter they will become. The sweeter they become, the more depth of flavor you're gonna give to your soup. All right, now I'm gonna get my celery cut up while I'm waiting for my onions to go. Now with the celery, all I'm gonna do is just kind of cut the top, cut the bottom. All right, I wanna get rid of these. Now again, it doesn't matter how you slice this up. You can just cut it down the middle. We'll just cut this one down the middle. You know, take your time. But it doesn't have to be any like specific, well, have to be this size or that size. It doesn't. All right, I just want you to enjoy cutting this stuff up and then getting it in your pan. All right, so we just chop these up, nice and easy. So this is all mixed in nice. I'm gonna give my onions a little stir. They smell incredible. I'm gonna turn this up just a little bit. All right, now we're gonna get our pumpkin next. I'm gonna get my celery in here. And this is one of the other great things about making a soup, is once we start with the onions first, and then we can start adding everything else into it. And it goes pretty quick. What we're gonna do with this first is I'm just gonna take it and slice the top. Now you want to be really careful with this because they are pretty tough. All right, so the reason we want to slice the top off first is now it gives us like a little stable kind of way to work with it. Now all I'm going to do is take this and I'm just going to slice it down. So I just take my knife and I just cut it down like that. I'm going to cut it in thirds because it makes it easier for me to work with. All right, so now I have it cut in thirds. Now I'm going to take this piece and just cut this down. Now from here, what you're going to do is all you're going to do is scrape out all these. Now, if you're feeling daring, what you could do is save all these little pumpkin seeds, and we could take these and roast these off. All right, but we're not feeling daring today, so we're just going to scrape them in here and just make our soup. And you can see they come out pretty easy. Now again, if you wanted to, you could take these and just roast these off. Throw them in your oven, about 350 degrees, and just roast these off. And it would taste amazing. You can put any kind of seasoning you want in there and just have yourself a little snack, or you can add it as a little garnish. Now we have our pumpkin cut and it's already gutted out. So now all we're going to do is take our knife. Now since it's easier to work with, we can just slice it down and peel this. All right, it makes it easier with smaller pieces. If I was to try to do this with the whole entire pumpkin, it makes it really tough because it's always moving and wobbling all over the place. All I'm going to do is just slice this down. I turn it over this way, and I just do the same thing here. Or you just want to kind of draw your knife right through it, slice your knife right through it, and we just peel that. I'll get rid of all these. Okay, that's one. I'm going to do the other one too. Same thing. So we're just going to take it and just push your knife all the way through. You want to have a nice sharp knife. All right, it's crucial, especially in anything that we do. Now, if you don't know how to take care of it or how to resharpen it, just stay tuned, and we're going to have another episode coming that I'll show you how to take care of your knives. All right, so we want to make sure we just finish this up nice and easy. All right, we're safe with it. I wish you could smell these onions because they smell incredible. All right, so we just want to trim this up. Now, could you use a peeler? You could definitely use a peeler. The only thing sometimes with a peeler is these are really thick skinned, so it kind of makes it tough on your peeler. All right, so we're just going to slice this through. Sometimes it's better just to use your knife and just to kind of slice right through. Plus, it's good practice. All right, I got my 2 pieces peeled off. I'll do one more. I want to make sure I keep an eye and give, oh, you can see the bottom of the pan now. I know you can see that. All right, that, you see all that in there? This is all that really nice flavor that we're looking for. We want to make sure that we protect that. I don't want it to go more than that, so I want to be really, really careful with it. That's why I have my chicken stock or my water ready to go. If it gets a little too dark, I could just add a little bit of my stock to it, and that'll protect that from losing all that flavor. So I'm going to go through, do my last one, peel this one up. Now they're diced, right? I just want to make sure they're a little bit smaller pieces so they cook evenly. All I do is just take this and cut this. I can cut this in small bite-sized pieces. Now if you have a little skin on there, that's fine. That's not going to hurt anything. All right, we're just going to chop these up. Now could you do this in the oven? You could definitely throw these in the oven first, roast them so they're soft, and then add it to your soup or make a soup out of it. That's a good way of doing it, and it's not bad. This way, I think, develops a little bit more flavor because we get to cook everything together. The pumpkin cooks, the onions cook together, so everything kind of marries and gives you just a little bit more of a flavorful soup than if I was just to roast these by themselves. All right, so I'm just gonna chop this up. All right, you'll see that pumpkins are, not only are they healthy for you and delicious, but they're more than just for pies. I mean, don't get me wrong, I will tear into a pumpkin pie. I'm a huge fan of pumpkin pies, but I also love using it in different things. All right, so now I have my onions are looking great. All right, the bottom of the pot is looking incredible, and I wish you could smell it because it smells, it has like a sweet aroma to it. All right, and that's what we're looking for. You see the onions are starting to turn brown too. Remember that browning is that caramelization that's happening in there. So the sugar that's in that onion is starting to turn brown and starting to get sweeter and sweeter. All right, so that's looking great. Now at this point, all I'm going to do is start to add my pumpkin to it. We'll get all our pumpkins in there. I'm going to give that a stir. And we're just going to let this go a little bit. So that's looking incredible right there. Now what I'm going to do to this point is I'm just going to add a little bit of our amazing herb salt. And the reason why I want to add herb salt to this now is I want to start to draw out a lot of the flavor. All right, a lot of the moisture, but also I want to draw out some of the flavor. All right, that salt is going to help me draw out that flavor. So I'm going to let this go just for a minute or two. Most of the cooking that's going to happen won't really happen until we add the liquid to it. What we're really doing here is just kind of building on flavor, building layers of flavor in there. Once we get that liquid in there, that's when everything will start to marry and you'll start to get that incredible flavor together. All right, so we got that. That's looking good. Now, I'm going to add our spice to this. I'm a huge fan, not too spicy, but I like a little bit of heat to it, especially with a dish like this. With a dish like this, because there's going to be really sweet components to it, that little bit of spiciness really kind of balances these flavors out, which is what you want. You don't want it to be a dominantly one flavor only. So we're going to mix that in. But now again, I don't want you to think you have to use the curry. You can use whatever you wanted to if you wanted to balance this out. All right, we're going to add some of our ginger at this point. And that ginger just really has a really nice relationship with a pumpkin. All right, so we want to get that in there, just let it go. Now at this point, I'm being very, very careful because now I start adding herbs in this, or I start adding my spices to it. A lot of that liquid is going to start to be absorbed by it. So I want to be careful at the bottom of the pan that I'm always keeping an eye out for it, making sure that it doesn't stick or burn to the bottom of the pan. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, I'm sure you can see right there how incredible this is looking right here. I'll scrape the bottom of it a little bit just so you can see. It's starting to stick, but it's not burning. All right, the sticking, good. Burning, no good. All right, now if this was getting too dark, I would automatically reach for the stock or water and just get that in there and kind of cool it off a little bit. All right, so we want to make sure we control our heat. That's looking incredible. Now, next thing that goes in is I'm going to get my garlic in there. Again, how much garlic you want to add in, that's totally up to you. All right, I like it a little garlicky too. Now again, when do we know the garlic is ready? And I'm sure if you've seen in 1 or 2 episodes, wherever we talk about garlic, you know as soon as you could smell it, oh my goodness, it's time to move on to the next step. All right, so the next step would be our pumpkin puree. Now remember, pumpkin pie and pumpkin puree are 2 different things. When you go to the store and you're looking for this, you're going to look for canned pumpkin puree. There's only 2 ingredients in here: salt, pumpkin. That's all you want. Nothing else. All right. When you go to pumpkin pie mix, what you'll get is you'll have all kinds of ingredients in there. We don't want that. All right. That's not for this. All right. We want to make sure we keep it very, very healthy, and we just go for the pumpkin puree. So now you know, if I wanted to do all of it with just pumpkin puree, you can do the whole soup with just pumpkin puree. If you want to do it like we did it right here and use half of a whole pumpkin that you chop up and then half of the puree, you're more than welcome to do it like that too. All right, whichever one you want to do, that's how I want you to do it. All right, there's not one way that's wrong or one way that's right. All right, they're both good. All right, so we're just going to mix this up. And then obviously, if I'm going to do just all pumpkin puree, the time that it takes to cook is going to be so much quicker. All right, because now I'm just going to add a couple things in there just to bolster flavor. I'm going to add my puree, add my stock, let it come up to a boil, simmer it. Soup is pretty much done. All right, with this one, it takes a little bit more time because we want to develop flavor. All right, you can see, all right, that's good. Now, my super surprise, our beets. Now, before I put this in there, I want you to go check this out. Hey, Chef Rich here. I hope you're enjoying the show. I just got back from the gym and I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about beets, which happens to be one of my favorite ingredients. Now, when most people say beets, they have one of 2 reactions. First is, yuck, I don't like beets. Second, our beets are only red. And I'm here to tell you they're both wrong. All right, first, beets are so incredibly delicious. And they even get better when they're cooked different ways and added to different dishes. Second, you can find beets in different sizes, shapes, and colors. All right, you can find them in white, golden, pink, red, and striped red and white. Each having a slightly different flavor, but all packing a powerful nutritional punch. Now, beets are particularly rich in folate. And folate is a vitamin that plays a key role in growth, development, and heart health. Now, they contain a good amount of magnesium, which is also great for bone formation to give you nice, strong bones, nutrient metabolism, and brain function. They're high in copper, and copper is an important mineral required for energy production. Now, they've been studied for their ability to decrease elevated blood pressures, and they also are powerhouses in anti-inflammatory properties and have been shown to have cancer-fighting properties as well. Now, there are so many ways to eat them: roasting, grilling, soups and stews, and you can get them frozen, you can get them in cans, and fresh. The only thing I want you to do is get them. Then join our One Plate Cooking Club to learn different ways to implement them in your diet. Now, before we get back to the kitchen, let me leave you with this. You can get healthy if you focus on today, right now. Forget about the past and what didn't work. And don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will bring its own troubles. It takes small steps to be successful. And working together, you will reach your health goals, I promise. And we'll do it one plate at a time. God bless you all, and let's get back to the kitchen. There you go. So I'm glad you learned a lot about beets. So we're going to add our beets to this now. And we're just going to start mixing this in. Now, if you want to use your spoon to break up some of the beets, you can. That's fine. But again, don't worry about breaking it up, It's all going to cook in here, and we're going to puree everything. So nothing is going to be left whole once we're done with it. All right, you can see it looks incredible already. It has like a lot of things going on there, a lot of flavors going on. So now the next ingredient is going to be our stock. We're not going to fill it up with stock yet because we have our friend, which is going to be our coconut. So we'll add that. Now I'm going to get in there and just give this a stir and mix it in. Look, you know, I mean, we could eat it just like this. I would definitely just get a spoon, pull up a chair, and just eat it just like this because it looks incredible. Now, one of the things I want you to know, when we're doing anything with like a starchy vegetable, like our pumpkin is starchy, it's going to absorb a lot of liquid. All right, so when I add liquid to this, I want to make sure that I add maybe just a little bit more than normal. Now, if you're scared about adding too much liquid in there, that's okay too. We can always add more liquid to it once we're done pureeing it to thin it out if it's too thick. Now, if we added too much liquid once we pureed and it's too thin, then we just have to reduce it down for a little bit. Just cook a little bit longer and it'll get to where we want to. All right, but I can tell this is going to be just a little too thick right now. I'm going to add a little bit more stock to it. Now I see everything is kind of free floating in there when I give it a stir. Now what I'm going to do to this, I'm going to bring it up to a boil and then turn it right down to a simmer. I don't want to boil my soup. If I boil it, what will happen is that it'll reduce too much. It'll start to stick to the bottom of the pan, and there's a very, very good chance it's going to burn. All right, I don't want to go through all this trouble to make such an amazing soup and then have it burn at the last minute. All right, so I want to bring it up to a boil. Then I want to drop it right down to a simmer and just let it simmer out nice and slowly. The longer it simmers, the more flavor it's going to develop, the better your soup is going to be. I promise you that. Okay, soup's been going for 15 minutes and it smells incredible. All right, it's really tender in there. I've been tasting it as we've been going, so I can't lie, it tastes incredible. Now we need to puree everything. Now there's two ways you could do this. If you had a blender, you could take out the solid pieces first, put them in your blender with a little bit of the liquid, and start letting that puree. That's one way. Or we can do it in one pot. If I'm gonna do it in one pot, I'm gonna use this. This is an Immersion blender. All right, it's an Immersion blender because you put this whole piece in there and you do everything right in there. Now, you can get these at the store. This is just a big jumbo super duty one. You don't need to have this one. You can use a smaller version of it. But we get this in there and we just put it on and just let it do its thing. Now, it's going to make a lot of noise. So again, we're going to do one of those fast forward things. So we speed this up. Okay, so the soup is pureed and it looks incredible. You see how the beets gave it like a really rich, deep orange color? All right, so this is one of the things that we want to do. We want to make food look as attractive as it does taste incredible. And it has all that nutritional power in there as well. Now, there's just a couple more things we have to do before we can start to dig into this. I want to get our garnish ready. So I'm going to add a little bit of this cilantro in there. And again, I'm just going to rough chop this. So we're just going to chop this up. How big or how little you do your chop is totally up to you. Or if you want to make it real rustic, you can kind of just rip it apart if you wanted to. If you wanted to make it a little bit more fine, you know, we could do like a really fine mince if we wanted to. Totally up to you. So we're going to get this and just kind of sprinkle this in. We don't want to waste anything, so let's get it all in there. Now we got that in there. Now we're just going to go in there and give it a stir, because I want to make sure it gets all incorporated. Now what'll happen is, because I added those herbs in there, and they're fresh herbs, the heat of the soup will kind of gently release a lot of that oil that's in the herbs. So you're going to get a huge bunch of aroma, plus you're going to get all that added flavor inside of it. All right, so I have my plate. We have our second garnish. That's going to go, our sour cream is just going to go right on top. And what we'll do is we'll just work that in as we eat it. It just gives it a little bit more richness. And I'm also going to be super fancy with this one. And you don't have to go this fancy if you don't want to, but I like to go fancy sometimes. And I'm just going to take a lime, and I'm just going to get ready to serve that with it, just because it looks fancy. So I'm going to get one portion of my soup plated. Oh my goodness, that looks incredible. And you can see the texture of it is just really, really soft. Everybody makes fun of my spoon. I think it's a small spoon. Now I'm going to get some of my garnish. Again, just a little bit of sour cream. You don't need a lot of it. And we're just going to put that right on top. And then, two things. I could take a little bit of my lime and just squeeze it around. Or I could just take my lime and just serve it with it and have somebody else do it. Either way you want to do it, it's totally up to you on how you want to serve it. Now, come on. It doesn't get any easier than this. Now, if we work together, getting healthy and feeling better doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. I promise. We'll always make it fun, easy, and delicious, and we'll do it one plate at a time. God bless, and I'll see you next time. It's time for me to eat. Oh my goodness, that's so incredible. Do you want to learn more easy to follow tips and techniques that'll transform your cooking game? Join me for our live cooking classes and keep learning with our new One Plate Cooking Club. Visit our website and sign up today for your favorite class. Oh my goodness, that's incredible.